On 23rd of June, 2018, 12 boys follow their soccer coach for an adventure of a beautiful cave tour after soccer practice. This was not their first time visiting this cave. For them, it is a pretty regular thing. Then, unfortunately, rain started, and within hours, everything changed. These students, along with their coach, went on a trip to Tham, Luang, which is a 3-mile-long cave system snaking through the mountains of Thailand. In the dry season, it's a tourist attraction. But in monsoon season, it becomes something else entirely. These students represent a local youth football team aged 11 to 16 named the Wild Boars. They went to the cave along with their 25-year-old coach, a man they called Kochek. They wandered roughly 2.5 miles inside before the monsoon rains began flooding the entrance behind them. By 7 p.m. that evening, panicked parents were calling the authorities. Abandoned bikes and bags sat at the cave mouth, and somewhere deep in the mountain, 12 kids and their coach had no way out. Within 24 hours, the scene at Tham Luang was unlike anything Thailand had ever seen. Thai Navy SEALs arrived in force, led by Rear Admiral Opakorn Yukonke. Pumps started running day and night, pulling water out of the cave. Search teams plunged into the darkness and hit walls of water. Local cave expert Vernon Unsworth surveyed the site on foot and came back with a grim report. There was a big wall of water blocking the cave. Getting through wasn't just difficult. In those conditions, it was nearly suicidal. Then, on June 28th, a British Cave Rescue Council team landed in Chiang Rai. Among them were 2 middle-aged men who would soon become heroes to the entire world. Rick Stanton, a retired firefighter from Derbyshire, and John Volanthen, an IT consultant from Bristol. They weren't movie heroes. They didn't look like action stars. They were just the best cave divers alive. By July 1st, an estimated 1 billion liters of water had been pumped from the cave. Chinese divers had joined. Australian Federal Police divers were on site. The U.S. Air Force had sent pararescuemen. Over a dozen countries were now invested in finding 13 people who, by many estimates, were probably already dead. July 2nd, day 9 of the search, 10 p.m., Rick Stanton and John Volanthen pushed deeper into the cave than anyone has gone before. Over 1.5 miles in, through flooded passages, through zero visibility silt, through gaps so narrow a grown man can barely squeeze through. And then a flashlight catches something. Mud-covered faces, blinking in the light. 12 boys and their coach, huddled on a small ledge above the waterline. Thin, exhausted, but alive. On the helmet camera footage, you can hear Volanthen's voice barely above a whisper. How many of you? A boy answers, 13. Volanthen replies, brilliant. Back at the command center, Chiang Rai Governor Narongsak Osatanakorn made the announcement the world had been waiting for. We found them safe, but the operation is not over. He was right. In many ways, the hardest part hadn't even started. Here's the brutal reality the rescue team now faced. The boys were alive, but they were 2.5 miles deep in a flooded mountain. The water between them and the exit was dark, cold, full of silt, and coursing through passages, sometimes less than 25 centimeters wide. The boys couldn't swim. They had zero diving experience. So, what options did they have? Option 1, wait for the dry season. Let the monsoon pass. Let the water recede naturally. That would take months. Except rescuers measured the oxygen levels inside the cave on July 6th and found them at 15%. Normal air is 21%. At 15%, you're already hypoxic. The boys wouldn't last weeks, let alone months. Option 2, drill through the rock from above, like the famous Chilean miners' rescue in 2010. Except this wasn't a mine shaft. This was hundreds of feet of solid limestone with no clear path down. Engineers on site called it finding a needle in an ocean. Too slow. No viable route. Option 3, sedate the boys. Put them unconscious and carry them like human cargo through miles of flooded, pitch-black, razor-edged underwater passages. It had never been done before, ever. Not once in the history of cave rescue. Australian cave diving anesthesiologist Dr. Richard Harry Harris, who had flown from Adelaide to join the team, was brought in to design the sedation protocol. He later admitted, with painful honesty, I expected the first 2 kids to drown. I put their odds of survival at 0. He administered the sedatives anyway, because there was no other choice. The plan was as precise as it was terrifying. Each boy would receive a cocktail of ketamine and midazolam, enough to render him unconscious, but not stop his breathing. He'd be fitted with a full-face mask to keep water out even while unconscious. His arms would be loosely secured to prevent reflex panic. And then 2 divers would guide him, floating, limp, trusting through the passages. Over 700 scuba tanks were staged through the cave to maintain oxygen supply along the route. 13 rescue divers, British, Australian, Thai, American, rehearsed every movement. Sunday, July 8, dive teams entered at 10 a.m. By 4:30 p.m., the first boy appeared at the cave entrance, strapped to a stretcher, pale and unconscious, but breathing. Then, a second, a third, a fourth. By 7 p.m., 4 boys were alive and in helicopters heading to Chiang Rai Hospital. Narong Sak told the press, "For kids saved today, Monday, July 9th. For more, each one carried through darkness. Each one handed off between divers at relay points like the world's most delicate relay race. By nightfall, 8 boys were out. The Thai Navy SEALs posted on Facebook, 2 days, 8 boars. Hoya, Tuesday, July 10th, 19 divers descended. The last 4 boys, and Kochek, who had insisted on going last, were sedated and brought out. By 5 p.m., it was over. The SEAL Facebook post was simple. All 12 wild boars and coach have left the cave. All safe. 13 people walked or were carried out of that mountain alive. But the rescue came at a price. On July 5th, during preparation dives, retired Thai Navy SEAL Sumangunan lost consciousness while returning from a supply run deep in the cave. He was 38 years old, a volunteer. He died doing something he didn't have to do because he believed these children were worth saving. He